Okay, so I kind of want to continue our coverage over the Dawn of DC. And really because I have been hearing a lot of great things about Dawn of DC right now, especially because it leads into Absolute Comics. The problem is that we're kind of far behind when it comes to our coverage over the Dawn of DC. Matter of fact, I think our last video was last year when Action Comics Volume 1 for Dawn of DC had wrapped up. So we are technically far behind our coverage over the Dawn of DC. So for the next few months, we might see some videos here and there covering different stories from the Dawn of DC. But the main reason why I kind of want to get into it, because right now I've been hearing that Absolute Comics or Absolute anything DC is beautiful right now. So of course, we got to play some catching up. With that being said, because our last video was Action Comics Volume 1, under the Dawn of DC banner, I kind of felt like we should go ahead and do Volume 2 as well. And so Volume 2 does pick up where Volume 1 left off at, and it's called New Worlds. And so getting into Action Comics issue number 1057, we actually pick up with Clark Kent having lunch with a character known as Glenn. Now, honestly, I like Glenn. Now, Glenn is a new character, first appearance ever in DC Comics, but Glenn is an ex-con who was actually put in prison by Superman. By this point in his life, he's trying his best to turn things around for his wife, but also for his child as well. Now, we do learn that apparently his child has stolen some money from his wife, like $100 or something, but he's coming to Clark Kent for some parenting advice. Now, I like this a lot. And the reason why, because let's not forget, for Clark Kent and Lois Lane, they do have a son, Jonathan Kent. The problem is that they weren't really able to be parents to Jonathan thanks to the writing of Brian Michael Bendis, because he was aged up to a young adult. But luckily for Clark and Lois, they're now getting that second chance to be actual parents once again, because now they had adopted twins from World. And so for Clark Kent, he's trying his best to give some parenting advice, but at the same time for Clark, it's him telling Glenn, like, just talk to your son. Tell him why his actions are mistakes. Talk to him to explain how the world truly works. And you have Clark leave because he hears Lois calling his name. Now, by this point in DC Comics, we have to remember that Lois Lane is actually in charge of the Daily Planet. But also, the reason why she had called up Clark is because they were able to secure an interview with the leader of Blue Earth. Now, we had actually talked about Blue Earth in our last video for Action Comics. You see, Blue Earth is, well, a terrorist group. They hate the idea that the Earth is now being home to aliens across the world. They feel like the Earth should only be for humans, and that is it. And so recently, they have been doing some terrorist attacks across the world, especially in Metropolis because of, well, the Superman family being mostly aliens. Either way, for Lois Lane, she does inform Clark that they were able to secure an interview with the leader of the actual group. The problem is the leader will only be interviewed by somebody she likes. And right now, that is Clark Kent. And so for Clark, he needs to interview the actual leader of the group. And so 1 hour later, we actually pick up with the Daily Planet getting ready for the interview. Now, you do have the actual leader of Blue Earth walk into the room, and that will be Nora Stone. Now, Nora is going to be very important for the story arc, but also her bodyguard came as well. Now, her bodyguard is going to be used to bring in a new concept for this story arc. Either way, we also see Nora having some kind of stone bracelet on her arm, and apparently this bracelet will affect Clark Kent in a different way. But now it's time for the actual interview. Now, this interview is actually pretty cool, and let me explain why. Because you have Clark Kent trying his best to ask the right questions to get the truth out there for the people. But the problem is she knows what to say to hide the actual truth. Now, for Clark Kent, he can use his powers to read when somebody is lying. But the problem is, if you are just a regular person, you cannot truly tell if she is actually lying or not. Instead, you would believe that she is telling the actual truth. Let me explain. Because you have Clark say, hey, listen, the FBI is saying that you are a terrorist group. But she says, why? Because you have folks out there who are doing things I did not ask them to do, Those folks out there, they're just a tad bit too passionate in what we truly believe in. But for me and most of my organization, we don't believe in violence. All we're saying right now is that technically this earth belonged to humans. But now more and more aliens are coming to our planet. More and more aliens are causing problems. More and more aliens are the reason why us humans are dying off in different kinds of ways. And so it's her saying, like, hey, listen, I'm not violent. I'm just expressing how I truly feel. Like I said, Clark can tell that she is lying. Clark can tell that she told those folks to go out there and do those attacks. But again, if you are a regular person, you would not be able to hear or see the actual truth. Now, after that interview, you didn't have Clark realize that he does recognize her. But the problem is, though, he has no idea where from. Now, at the same time, for Clark Kent, it seems like he does not feel so great. And matter of fact, it does seem like he might pass out. But at the same time, he wants to make sure that he is able to follow her back to her base or her home to hopefully learn more about her. But when he gets into the elevator, he is then confronted by the bodyguard we saw earlier. Now, this bodyguard is for Miss Stone. And so for Clark, he's like, oh, maybe she forgot something and he came back to get it for her. And he asked him like, hey, did y'all forget something? And the guy said, yeah, you. And that is when you have Clark begin to get beat down by this bodyguard. We also learned that somehow this bodyguard was able to drain the energy of Clark Kent and take that energy for himself. And so technically right now, this man is, well, a Superman and begins to beat down on Clark Kent across the entire city to the point where he actually does change his appearance to look just like Superman. And it's kind of like, what in the world is going on here? And so getting into the second chapter, issue number 1058, we pick up with Clark Kent just getting his butt whooped. I mean, like, Clark is getting a beat down. But at the same time for Clark Kent, he really can't focus because right now his powers have been drained. And so he's not really able to just rebound so easily like he would against other opponents. And so right now, he's just waiting for his body to properly heal up. Now, for Clark Kent, he is in luck because let's not forget, you see, over in the main Superman comics, we had learned that Lex Luthor had handed over his company over to Superman. So LexCorp is no longer around. It's called Supercorp. Now, Supercorp is basically LexCorp, but now their main goal is to help out Superman protect Metropolis or possibly the entire world. And so over the years for Lex Luthor, he had created different kinds of weapons that could be used to bring down Superman. And right now, this is the perfect time to use those weapons. Now, for Clark Kent, these weapons are not really going to affect him because, well, he had his energy drained. But for the false Superman, it is going to affect him very well. Now, real quick, I kind of want to explain what was the goal for the false Superman. You see, he wanted to go around and use the face of Clark Kent to cause havoc across the city, to frame Superman, to kind of say, look, he's an alien and he caused all this damage across the city. Either way, you do have Clark say, hey, Supercorp, go ahead and use the weapons on the fake Superman. You see, you have Clark Kent tell us that the two powers that he had a hard time controlling over the years is his super hearing and also his heat vision. And so for the false Superman, he's still kind of learning how to control those actual powers. And so the equipment that's going to be used to bring him down, they truly affect those two powers right there, his super hearing and his heat vision. And so just like that, bam, you have Supercorp and also Clark Kent being able to take down the false Superman. Now, for Nora Stone, she is eating this up. She's telling the public right now, look what he did. Look at what your Superman did. Now, she is showing a false video, not really showing it was Clark Kent or someone else fighting against Superman. But either way, because you had Clark Kent regular clothes and, well, the false one wearing the actual face and suit of Superman, it looks like right now it was just Superman going on a rampage, fighting against somebody, doing some serious damage across the city. And so you have Lois Lane back at home right now, just trying her best to like work out an actual story that tells the actual truth. Now, we also get reminded that for Lois Lane and Clark Kent, they had also adopted two kids from World who are basically Kryptonians. Azul and Otto. And I really hope I pronounced those names correctly. If not, please tell me nicely in the comments below. But either way, when it comes to these two kids, well, for Otto, the girl twin, she got in a fight in school. And the reason why, because the other kids were being mean to her younger brother. And so she was just being that protective big sister. Either way, you then have Clark Kent come home. Now, when he comes home, you have Supergirl take the kids away into their rooms to read them a book. Now, technically, when it comes to Supergirl, she does tell them a story about their family line. It's just that I'm not going to tell you that story in this video. And the reason why, because if I did, this video will be a whole lot longer than it should be. And just know that it is somewhat kind of cool to hear because you do learn more about Krypton. But for right now, we can go ahead and move on. Now, once you have Clark Kent come home, he does run into Steel. Now, remember, for Steel, he has his own company now called Steelworks. But apparently, he needs Steel's help to kind of regain his power. Because right now, with Clark being drained, he really can't be out there being Superman and protecting the actual city. But luckily for John, who's Steel, he does have his own company, and they do have the right tech to help Clark Kent regain his powers at a very fast pace. Now we jump over to Nora Stone, and you see that Nora Stone's right now in some kind of room full of different kind of magical artifacts. But then she begins to talk to people who are in a different dimension about the whole idea of trying to take away one of the members of Superman's family to help them with their cause. Now we have no idea who just yet, but soon we are going to learn. Now, I want to jump back over to Clark Kent and also John because we do see John give Clark a suit to wear because for Clark, even though he is a solar battery, he's trying to absorb solar energy. The problem is right now that solar energy is not coming in fast enough because right now he wants to be out there as Superman just in case Blue Earth does something, but at the same time to figure out what in the world is going on with Nora Stone. Either way, we do see that John was able to create a suit to help Clark regain his strength, but to also give him the ability to still be Superman out in the field. And so as we dive into issue number 1059, we actually pick up with some criminals who are trying their best to get away because technically they had just stolen an arms truck, but also they had killed off the guards who were guarding that truck. The problem is for these criminals is that while they're trying to get away, they are then confronted by more members of the Blue Earth. Now, these members of the Blue Earth, they have the powers of Superman. And so right now, they're trying to use that power as a way to stop these bad guys, but they're not trying to take these bad guys into prison. It seems like they're trying to, well, possibly kill them. But luckily for them, well, Superman arrived alongside with good old Steel. So right now, we're getting a good old team up moment right now. And so for our two heroes, they are actually able to hold their own against the different members of Blue Earth. Now, for Blue Earth, they believe they have the true advantage here. They believe they should be able to defeat both Superman and Steel. But the problem is for them, the rest of the Super family arrived. And so now it seems like we are about to see a big battle between the Superman family and also the different members of Blue Earth. Except for Otto, she has not actually joined the battle. And the reason why, because somebody was able to access her mind. And that would be Nora Stone. Now, this is Nora Stone trying to begin the process of bringing her over to her side by being all like, look, I heard that you and your brother came from World. I also heard that you killed a lot of people as a way to protect your brother. It's kind of Nora Stone saying, you don't belong here on Earth. But also, you do not belong with this super family because they're all heroes. You're not a hero. You're a killer. And so is Nora Stone beginning the process of trying to bring Ortho over to her side by trying to plant things into her mind. Now, once you have Nora Stone leave, for Ortho, she does go back to, well, reality, where you have the battle now over, but you now have the entire family wondering if she is okay. Now, after the battle, we do see that Superman was able to regain all his strength because there are some other machines in Steelworks that gives him the ability to absorb some solar energy at a faster pace. But then the next problem pops up. You see, let's not forget that Superman and his family just fought against the members of Blue Earth. But then Blue Earth had released a video that showed what happened differently, that shows the Superman family being more like the aggressors, also being savages when it came to their battle against the members of Blue Earth. That in reality, the members of Blue Earth were trying to protect everybody from the Superman family. And so right now, it's Blue Earth painting this picture saying like, hey, look at this family. They're bad. They're not good. They're all aliens. This is why Earth should only be for humans, not for aliens. We should get rid of them. Now, for Clark Kent, he begins to remember where he saw Nora Stone from, because earlier on he said, she does look somewhat familiar. And right here, he begins to remember who she actually is. See, Nora Stone is actually, well, Janin Al Ghul, the daughter of Talia Al Ghul and also Bruce Wayne. Now, here's the thing. She's from a different reality in the dark multiverse. Now, in the dark multiverse, her and her family, they have ruled over multiple Earths across the dark multiverse. Until you had Superman and Batman go over to her reality and actually defeated her and her family, but also bring down their entire empire. Now, for our heroes, they also made sure that she would not have the ability to travel across the multiverse. But it seems like she found a different way to now travel across the multiverse. But really, the only reason why she's here right now in Earth Zero is to, one, take over the Earth, but two, get revenge against Superman. But for Clark, he realized who she is, and now he's kind of freaking out. But now we have to jump back over to Otto. Now, when we do, we actually see that she had found a stone earlier when she had that conversation with, well, Nora Stone, some kind of necklace stone. Either way, that necklace begins to activate. It begins to take her away over to where Nora Stone is at. And so now for Nora, she has the one Kryptonian that she actually wanted, which means Otto might be used against the family very soon. Now, for Superman, he knows that magic's now involved. The whole idea of how Otto was teleported away, magic was involved. And the only way to get her back over here is to find somebody who's really skilled in magic. And the only person to think of right now is John Constantine. And so he goes to a club. He finds John like, hey, man, listen, I need your help. My daughter was taken, and I need your skills to help me get her back. But now we have to jump over to Earth Al Ghul, the home base of the old empire of the Al Ghuls across the multiverse, or dark multiverse. Now, by this point, they only have one Earth, their own. But either way, you have Otto there arriving to this reality, where she's now confronted by Nora Stone, who's now going by Sister Shadow. Now, for Sister Shadow, her main goal is to show Otto her actual purpose in the world or the multiverse by saying, listen, you are evil. You kill people. But on top of that, you don't belong to that super family. In reality, in the dark multiverse, you were actually a conqueror who worked with us. Now, she also tells us that when it came to their empire, when they went to different realities across the dark multiverse, they killed off all the Kryptonians in each of those realities to make things easier for them to conquer. But she also said, you, Otto, were on our side. You were a conqueror. You're one of us. And I feel like you should become one of us again in this new beginning. But getting back over to Earth Zero, we actually pick up with the different members of Blue Earth just causing chaos across the entire city. Now, luckily for Metropolis, they have the Superman family to help out. But the problem is right now, there's so many different members of the Blue Earth who have the abilities of Superman just causing havoc across the city. But getting back over to Superman and also, well, John Constantine, they head over to the base of, well, Blue Earth. And apparently, Sister Shadow was using the Cathedral of St. Lazarus as their base. Now, once you have our two heroes walk into the room that she has been using, they find out how she has been traveling across the multiverse. And once you have John see what she has been using, he freaks out. He says, listen, she had made an organum infernalis, and I really hope I pronounced that correctly. But he's saying that is a treasure of the wretch, housed in the bones of a hellhound, fueled by the spirit of one condemned. And he tells Superman, do not touch anything at all. This is wild. This is crazy. She's basically using hell as a way to travel across the multiverse. Now, for Superman, he begins to hear voices, and he believes it's Otto. He believes it's her calling out to him. But you have John say, no, she's not here. It's some kind of spirit playing mind games on you. But for Clark, he has no choice. He has to know if his daughter is okay. And so he picks up an hourglass. And when he does, it bursts open. And when it does, it takes Clark and takes him over to a different reality. We do learn that for Clark Kent, he does arrive at the All Ghul Earth. But he also sees two members of, well, the magical side of DC Comics. That will be Bloodwind and also Etrigan. They're both there to help out. But apparently, when it came to Sister Shadow, she used them as a way to open a portal through hell to allow her to travel to other realities. So these two guys, they're kind of like, hey, Clark, you know what? We got to work together because we want to get a piece of her for what she has done to us. And so as we dive into the final chapter for today's video, we jump back over to Earth Al Ghul, where we pick up with a family about to be killed off because they had two kids. Apparently in this reality, you're only allowed to have one child. If you have two, one of them has to die. But luckily for the family, they are saved at the very last second by Superman and also Bloodwind and Etrigan. All three heroes arrive at the same time to take down the different members of this empire. Now, it does lead into the moment where you have the young boy ask what the symbol on Superman's chest actually stands for. And he says it stands for hope. But either way, our three heroes, their main goal right now is to find Sister Shadow and to hopefully bring her down. Now, getting back over to Octo, we see that they're still trying to convert her over to their side. Now, if they're able to actually convert her over to their side, that'll be great. She'll become one of their conquerors. But the problem is, if she does not, they have a ritual in plan to make her become a vessel for Sister Shadow to use, to basically use her body. Now, with all that being said, you do have the other members of this empire tell Sister Shadow, like, hey, listen, I don't think she'll be able to join our side. It does seem like she's trying her best to fight back against us. Now, this leads into the point where you do have our heroes begin to fight against the different members of the actual empire of Sister Shadow. Now, for our heroes, they are able to do a lot of work against the forces of this army, but it does get to the point where you do have Clark being able to break into the main base of Sister Shadow to get his daughter back. Now, once he's able to get to her, you then have her try to fight against Superman. And the reason why, because when she looks at Clark, she sees Mongul. And Mongul was the reason why she was on World. And so she believes she has to kill him. Now, after a few more panels, you do have Clark being able to break the spell that was on her mind to say, hey, look, it's me, your adoptive father, Superman. I'm here to actually help you out. Now, here comes the problem, though, because now for Sister Shadow, she's very upset that once again Superman might ruin her family's plan. And so her goal right now is to take her army and go invade Earth Zero. And really, back on Earth Zero, you have the Superman family fighting against the army of Blue Earth. They're going back and forth. But then out of nowhere, you have both parties stop. And the reason why? The sky just opens up because here comes Sister Shadow and her army of people from her reality to hopefully take over this Earth. And so the rest of the story arc is really more of the Superman family fighting alongside with the Blue Earth group to fight against the forces of Sister Shadow. And so for a good amount of few pages, it's just our heroes trying their best to hold their own against her army. But the book really does end where you do have Superman being able to come back over to the main DC universe and then also being able to defeat Sister Shadow. Now, we're kind of left to believe that technically she is dead, but as all comics work, we already know that most likely she'll be back down the road for a different story arc. But either way, the book kind of ends on that note. And so we're almost caught up when it comes to Dawn of DC for Action Comics, but there are a couple more story arcs we have to cover before we can say we are officially caught up. With that being said, though, guys, this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.